Happy New Year. Today is January 1st, 2024, a new year. And I thought I owed it to all of you guys who are following me and all the people who've subscribed, and thank you very much. A little bit of an update. Actually, maybe a long update, maybe a short update. As usual, I'm off the cuff, unscripted, so let's see where this goes. So, what's been happening? Well, first off, historically, the last video I posted was a little over 2 months, no, it is 2.5 months ago. 10 weeks? Yeah, at least 10 weeks ago from my last posting, and that was a 1 hour long video of me doing touch and goes. Mixed reviews. Those who did watch it said way too long. I agree. It was way too long. I just threw everything in there, the whole kitchen sink and all that. But realistically, it's a day in the life of a student pilot. What are you doing all the time? So, I guess the best way for me to approach this is what's going to be happening in 2024. Well, I learned decades ago that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I do have a plan, and I'm going to be trying to stick with this plan as best possible, because like the old saying goes, no battle plan ever survives contact with the enemy. And in my case, the enemy is time and external influences and the work and all the other kind of stuff. So you get the drift. So short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term goals. Whenever you plan something, you should always plan on those threes. Where do you want to be long-term? In order to get there, you've got to have midterm and, of course, short-term goals. So let's start with my short-term goals. As it sits right now, I'm well along the way to finishing my pilot's license. That video that I posted with me doing circuits, well, not doing circuits anymore. What's happening is now I've been kind of cut free, and I do a short cross country into a practice area. And when I'm in the practice area, I'm doing all the stuff that I need to practice in order to pass my check ride. Steep turns, 45-degree steep turns, slow flight, forced landings, all that kind of stuff. The only thing I don't practice by myself is spins and spirals, and for obvious reasons. We only do that with an instructor, but virtually everything else that's going to be tested on my check ride, I'm practicing and I'm practicing and I'm practicing until I get it to the point where it says, you know what, I can do this without thinking about it. It's smooth, my altitude is nailed, everything is right. And then I go up with an instructor, and he says, "Oh, tweak this or tweak that. You're nearly there." And then with the instructor, we will practice spirals and spins. Yes, in Canada, you are required to do spin training and demonstrate that during your check ride, spins and spirals. And for those non-pilots out there, what's the difference? Well, I'll explain really brief. A spiral is you're not stalled, okay? But you're in a spiral dive, and which can happen if you adverse yaw, that kind of stuff like that. It's long story. If you really want, there's other videos on there that talk about what a spiral is and what a spin is. A spin, on the other hand, is your wings are stalled and you're heading down. Okay, usually nose down sort of thing. So those things are practiced only with an instructor in there who will initiate the spiral or a spin. He's not going to tell you, and you got to figure out, am I in a spin or a spiral, and recover from it immediately. It's just as much as possible. You want to lose as little altitude as you can. If you can do it under 1,000 feet, that's what you're looking for, sort of thing. 500 is even better, but it's recognizing what you're in is part of it. And really the biggest difference between the two is that when you're in a spin, your aircraft is stalled. So there's slightly different procedures to come out of a spin than you do for a spiral, where your aircraft wings are not stalled, but you're in a spiral. So all those flight instructors out there, if anybody's watching, you can probably explain it way better than I can explain it, because I'm just a student. So short-term goal with that, my goal is by the end of February, that's in 2 months' time, I do my check ride, and I will have written my practical written exam, which is that's a lot of studying. And I have a piece of paper in my hand that says I can fly this legally, and that's a milestone. So short-term goal is get the pilot's license finished. Now, for the last 3 months of virtually every year, I get really busy with work, and I do a lot of out-of-town work, so I'm gone for 3 to 5 days out of the week. I'm only back for the weekends. So comes a Saturday and a Sunday, I'm booking every Saturday and every Sunday. I'm booking the airplane and I'm out there flying. And the aircraft I'm flying for training, in case anybody is not familiar with this, is I'm flying a Piper PA-28-140. It's a Piper Cherokee. And so I'm flying a Piper Cherokee as my training aircraft. And so I'm booking that every weekend. And that usually, by the time you get to the school early, you do your pre-flight, if you have to fuel it up and all that kind of stuff, and get out there and fly, you book it for an hour and a half, and you get at least an hour usually in the training area, because it's about a 10-minute, 12-minute flight from the airport to the training area. And then you get about an hour there, and you're back, and you hand it over to the next student who's rented it, hopefully in flying condition. You haven't left nuts and bolts on the runway. I fly, all my training is done in controlled airspace. It's a Class D controlled airspace. In Canada, I believe it's a little different than the US, but Class C and D airspace are exactly the same, except the volume of traffic. Class C is a high volume traffic, that kind of stuff, and they'll usually have a lot more restrictions on people flying VFR through that kind of stuff. That's where you can say, can I get flight following? Say, look, we got 37 aircraft in the sky, so sorry, we're a little busy. Class D, you're more likely to get things like flight following and that kind of stuff, because their traffic load is much lower, but all the rules are virtually the same for that. So I'm flying in a controlled airspace all the time, and when I land, I've got to get a taxi off, I got to get taxi permission to taxi back and that kind of stuff. So it's actually very good, because once I do fly away from schooling, that kind of stuff, I know a lot of people who learn to fly in remote airstrips, grass strips, that kind of stuff, they're afraid of controlled airspace because they have to talk to somebody. I'm not afraid of it, because that's how I learned. And then the practice area I fly to is a carved out section. It's actually rather large, and it's from ground level to 5,000 ASL, and we're allowed to do whatever you want inside there, but that's a Class E airspace, which means there's no controls in there, but you have to have radio contact. So when you enter the controls, that Class E space there, we make a radio call, practice area traffic, looking for advisories, and if somebody is working out in a particular area, they'll come back and says, yeah, I'm from 4,000 to ground over this town or over this area. And these are kind of designated areas within the practice area. So you know where not to go, and then you just announce where you are, and keep on listening, because if somebody else enters the practice area, they'll say, you're looking for advisories. You say, hey, I'm in this area at these altitudes of practicing, and they'll know to kind of avoid that area and find a different spot. So, long rambling, that kind of stuff, it's what I'm doing now, is practicing for my check ride. And by the end of February, everything goes right, I will be doing a check ride with an examiner who goes up with me and puts me through the paces, and I'm going to be sweating, and of course as normal. But hopefully I've practiced everything correctly. So that's the short-term goal, or one of them. As soon as that is finished, part of the short-term goal, is to get a few things done on this airplane that are paperwork-wise. I've got to register the aircraft with Nav Canada because I put a transponder in it, and they're going to give me a hex code to plug into it so that I can, when I'm in the controlled airspace, it's going to be squawking my registration and all that kind of stuff, which is going to cost me, I think it's $110 annual fee once you register an aircraft with a transponder. Nav Canada says this is your fee because now you can go in and out of controlled airspace. And this airport that I'm at is right in the heart of the Winnipeg control zone, like well inside of it, in a Class C. It's a busy airport, but we have a carve out that we can fly into our little airport and out of. As long as we stay below a certain altitude and stay within these boundaries, we can fly in and out of this without getting permission from approach so we need to, if we wanted to cross that area and go to another place, we'd have to get permission to enter the Class C. If you don't have a transponder, they're going to say no. Just flat out, no, forget it. Unless there's a special event going on, like last year there was a poker derby, and a lot of guys with no transponders were heading to another airport and the shortest route. So Winnipeg Control was advised that there's a poker derby and there's going to be a lot of guys asking. So they kind of said, okay, we're going to, give you this corridor if you don't have a transponder. Anyways, again, I'm rambling. So this transponder, I need to register it, I need to get it programmed properly, I need to get it tested, and then I gotta start paying my fees, that kind of stuff. I gotta get the nose cone on this thing with a pedostatic and a few other things, get the doors finished. So that's still a short-term goal, because all of that has to be finished by end of May. And why the end of May? Well, that's technically when winter really disappears up here, and our grass runway is now firm enough again for us to take off and land without getting into mush and water, that kind of stuff, and slushy stuff. And yeah, that's a short-term goal. Get that pilot's license finished. That's priority one. Get this airplane in full flying condition, and registration, insurance, all that kind of stuff has to be all updated and whatnot. And then I got to do some transition training, because a Piper Cherokee flies different than a Challenger 2. Apparently, I've been told, and I trust the people that have said that. So, yeah, there are other guys and gals in this little airport that I'm at that have exactly the same Challenger 2 on exactly the same amphibious floats with exactly the same engine bonus, and they're willing to take me up in theirs and do some transition. Okay, how much rudder do I need, that kind of stuff. Bunch of touch and goes. I mean, they're brave people. I will be a certified pilot, but the transition training is going to show me what's needed. I'm going to be doing some practicing with theirs, and then when I feel comfortable, this says, hey, yeah, you know what, I think I've got the feel of it. This airplane will probably fly slightly different than theirs, because they all do. They're not all built the same. Then I'll feel comfortable about taking this thing up and doing my first flight, and you will be coming along for that, absolutely. So all of that transition training, maybe, if I can film that, I will. The finishing work that needs to be done on this, of course, I'm going to be filming that. And then the first flight, when this thing goes up for the first time off this runway, with me as pilot in command, you'll be along, and I'll pop a champagne cork and that kind of stuff. That finishes the short-term goals. Midterm goals with this aircraft is to start flying it very regularly through the summer until after transition training, and into the fall. Doing circuits here, just getting used to it, doing some cross-country work with it, going for some $100 hamburgers. Again, all of that I'm bringing you guys along. And doing some exploring. And while that's happening, learning how to fly these floats. on water. Again, there are other guys with the same aircraft. They'll be hopping in my airplane at that point and showing me the ropes on float flying. You see, in Canada, where I live here, I don't need a float rating. I don't need to pay a school thousands of dollars to take me up in a I don't know, whatever, a 180 on floats or any aircraft on floats. I think you even have a 172 on floats. Anyways, I don't need to do that level of training where it's a full endorsement on my pilot's license for this aircraft. In Canada, this is qualified or classified as an ultralight. I know it's different than the U.S. We don't have something called Part 103 in Canada. That doesn't exist. No such thing. Everything that flies with a propulsion system, be it powered parachutes or these things, you have to have some form of accreditation. Either it's a recreational pilot permit, which is the lowest level, but that's usually for guys with powered parachutes, or even this. I can get a recreational pilot permit. It costs a couple $1,000 to get it, maybe $2,000, $3,000, not a lot of training. You train in the aircraft and you're type specific for what you learned in, but there's a lot of restrictions on where you can fly with that. And so with ultralights on floats, I don't need a full certification from a school. What I need is an endorsement on my logbook that I have done X number of takeoffs and landings, and that I'm confident with it and I can show that I've flown it. The restriction to that is of course, flying on the floats, that I'm only allowed to carry one passenger. I think that's the only capacity this thing has, is for one extra passenger. So not a big deal. I'm not flying a four-seater or six-seater, an Otter or something like that, so I'm not flying a large aircraft on floats. I'm flying something really tiny. So that's all I require is training. And actually, even that's not required. You just have to show that you've done it. If you wreck your little airplane and it's an ultralight, well, that's your problem. So it's kind of loose in that regards with regards to floats on ultralights. But I am going to be getting training from there's two guys that are instructors that have the airplanes here that have, like I say, this exact same airplane, and they're more than willing to take me up in mine and show me the ropes, and it'll cost me beers and steaks and that kind of stuff and whatnot. So anyways, midterm goal, get my floats flying down, and then continue on exploring. Again, I'll be bringing you guys along with that, because the long-term goal with this airplane is to do adventures, flying into the lake country in northern Canada, remote lakes that are large enough to land and take off with this aircraft, which is considerably smaller than you could if they, like, say, a 172 or something with floats. Pitch a tent, get that fishing rod wet, shore lunches or suppers, watch the sunset, and again, I'm going to bring everybody along for those adventures and show you some of the remote, rugged areas that some of these lakes. Talking to the natural resources officers out here, and I know a few of them, and they said there are some lakes that they know for a fact that there may have been a handful, less than a dozen human beings have ever been on that lake that they know of. Maybe 300 years from now or ago, there was something going on, but still, they're saying these are unexplored, undocumented, other than on a map, and most of those maps were created through satellite, so because nobody really went out there and actually charted these areas. So we're going to be going into uncharted territory, finding places to camp and fish. That's the long-term goal. That's probably 2025 before that starts happening. Okay, so 2024 is the short-term goals, the midterm goals of getting the float rating and start some exploring. And hopefully it's a lot of fun. So I do apologize for the break in posting videos. Again, it's hard to get away from it. It's work takes me away from everything, and I haven't been in the hangar in here in 2.5 months. So this is the first time in 2.5 months I've been at the hangar. So plane's still here, you know, everything's still here, so it's good. So there was kind of a pause put on all of this because of work. Yeah, but historically, January, February, March tends to be rather slow or slower with work. Doesn't stop. I'm already booked in 2 weeks' time. I've got another trip over 1,000 kilometers north of here to do some more work. So there is still going to be a lot of out of town in that regard, but not like it was at the tail end of the year. And that means I'll be here in the hangar a little more often doing some work. Now today I'm not going to be tackling a lot of stuff on my airplane. Well, actually I am, but it's the other part of my airplane, that Peel Emerald that I'm 1/6 owner with 5 other guys, and I'm doing the panel and the electrical and all that kind of stuff. And I have, like, not been here for that long. I've fallen way behind, so I got to catch up with a lot of that. So I'm not going to bother filming that because most of you guys aren't interested in that. So I don't think so. If you are, leave a comment that yeah, show us what you're doing with the Emerald as well, and I will. But that's it. This is the Happy New Year. What's been going on? What's going to be going on, and where do I want to go from here? So, and again, once again, I was mentioning at the beginning to everybody who's subscribed, thank you very much. Excuse me, and I really do appreciate that. It's nice to see that there is interest in that, you know, with the comments and the views and the subscriptions, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to close it off at that point. And this will be like a 23-minute video sort of thing as an update, without me wrenching on anything or what have you, just kind of me yakking, which I know some of you guys don't like the me yakking videos. But hey, this has got to be done. I'm sure people are curious of what's happening. And if you want me to post some flying videos when I'm training, I have another one. I filmed the weekend after from the last video that I posted. It's just me doing touch and goes, that kind of circuits. I could really trim it down to like a 20-minute, 30-minute video, because there were some interesting parts of that other one. A rain cloud came in, and I actually had to go down a kind of scud run, and I was getting rain on the windscreen, that kind of stuff, you know, turning onto base and onto final. It was still, you know, not IMC. Control tower was happy, everybody was happy with the viz, that kind of stuff. My visual limits were all in line, but it was that. And then of course at one point, because a lot of traffic was starting to come in, you know, I'm in the pattern. He says, you know, you need to do a 360, right hand 360, you know, just for spacing. So do a little 360 while in the pattern, and all these sort of things that happen in controlled airspace. If you're interested in that, to see what happened, let me know. Yeah, I'll put that together and post it as a training video. I'm not videoing a lot of my training videos because it's, how do I put it? It was kind of explained to me that since it's a commercial registered aircraft at the school, that their insurance doesn't like you just suction cupping things to the window is considered attachment, and you're not supposed to do that. I didn't know that. So I haven't filmed anything in the cockpit since my second flight, which I thought was okay, but after that they said, you know what, you really shouldn't be doing that. So I said, okay, no more. So yeah, that's why I haven't filmed anything more, and you won't be seeing anything of me when I'm in the practice area doing steep turns and all that kind of stuff because of that. So flying videos is going to be just when I'm in this thing now, when it's finished in the spring. The rest of it is just the finish of the builds and all of that. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. Again, Happy New Year, everybody. 2024. Oh, let's all hope that it is better than 2023 was. 2023 was better than 2022, which really sucked. 2021 sucked even worse. So 2024, I'm really optimistic that it's going to be a good year. It's going to be a good year for me, personal milestone goals. It's going to be a good year for a lot of you guys out there who are flying, and those of you who don't fly, who enjoy flying videos and have been following me along. Hopefully my content will be more interesting. That's not why I made the channel. I made the channel to document for myself and my family, but I kind of morphed into that. It's funny how that happens. Things kind of evolve, you know, what you plan or what you ended up doing sometimes don't look like what you started with, and that's what happened here. But that's okay. The feedback I get from a lot of people, both here and on social media, is absolutely worth it. You know, a lot of valuable feedback. And on that note, before I say goodbye, if you have a suggestion and I don't follow it, please don't feel offended. You know, because before I do anything here, and if I got a question, there are AMPs that are here at the airport as well. I ask them, and because the internet is full of people with lots of advice, and knowing what advice is good and what advice is bad, well, you got a better chance of hitting snake eyes on a dice 10 times in a row. Well, you could if you drilled the dice, but still, without drilling the dice, if you know what I'm saying. So the advice might sound and may be 100% sound, but I verify everything with guys here locally, as well as Bob out in Salmon RBC and Mike out in Ontario, who are Rotax dealers for any engine related, and as far as the aircraft, other Challenger owners that I can see face to face, and they can say, hey, this is what I did, and then we walk to their airplane and they point, this is what I did and this is why I did it. So I kind of rely on that a lot more, but the suggestions are good because it gets me thinking, says, I wonder if, and then I go and ask. So if I don't follow your suggestion, it might be because it doesn't apply, or other reasons. So with that, again, thanks for watching, and we will see you again in the hangar a little more often now. Not every week, unfortunately, because again, I'm working. And keep on watching. And for those of you who haven't subscribed, hit the little subscribe button. Just click it right now, because that really helps. So that's it. See you again in the hangar. Remember, keep your stick on the ice. Bye for now.